Hello and welcome to this edition of Group Talk, Admins of the Roundtable, with our hosts Chris Whisonant, Ted Hardenburg, and David Brown, all Lotus consultants at GBS. Without further ado, let's get started.
Good morning, Chris Whisonant here. We'll be going through several kind of random topics today. I'll start off with one going over a product called HAProxy that's a network load balancer, and then Ted's going to give us some user communication tips, and we'll then go into some information on managed replicas and implementing that and some things to look out for. So we'll go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk about a product called HAProxy. It's used for high availability. We use it with some of our customers. We use it internally for some other systems as well. It's an open source load balancing application. You can see the website down there at the bottom, haproxy.1wt.eu. They have full documentation there, live demo capabilities for you to see how it works. You'll see a lot of that through this presentation today, although it won't be a live demo. Basically, it's effective for any TCP service that you want highly available. We've used it for source control management systems, for LDAP, to be a front-end LDAP server. So, for instance, your connections are quicker or same-time servers will all point to the HAProxy LDAP service, and it'll have multiple back-end LDAP servers. So if one of those goes down, or if you want to take it down for maintenance, you don't have to worry about any lapse in user connectivity to the systems. The project is pretty frequently updated, a couple times a year. You'll see some updates. He's always correcting bugs. If anybody finds anything, it's very reliable. He even says on his website that he's not aware of any specific cases where a production HAProxy system has gone down because of his HAProxy code. So it's pretty good. It is a simple configuration file, just a .cfg file. It is a Linux application. Basically, you listen on an IP address for specific ports, and you can forward the traffic to one or more back-end ports, just like any IP sprayer. The back-end servers can be listening on different ports. For instance, you might not want to set up tunneling on your same-time community servers, but you may want to have users be able to connect on port 80. So in this case, you could have the HAProxy listen on port 80 and then send back-end traffic to 8082 or any other ports that you may want to. For instance, source control management systems, if you want those public on the web, a lot of those may listen on the SSH port, but you probably would want the front-end port listening on something uncommon, so you wouldn't have hackers trying to constantly hit that SSH port and try to log in just all the time. Same with FTP or anything like that. There is an admin screen that you can get to via a web. I'll show you how to configure that shortly, but this is what it would look like. As you can see there, we've got our title on it. Gives you the PID that it listens on in case you need to reference that in any way to kill the task or anything like that to restart it. You can see the version quickly. As you can see here, we've got an LDAP server listed at the bottom. The checkbox on the line that's in red, you can actually click that, and I'll show you later, there's the choose action to perform. You can actually take one of the services or one of the servers into or out of service by clicking the checkbox and then choosing enable or disable and clicking apply. There we go. So for instance, we took that out of service at one point, but you could re-enable it once you brought the server back online or it was ready to go. You can see on the top right here on this one the different status indicators. Servers are active up, they're down. You see the brown is active, or backup is down for maintenance. So that's one where we had actually clicked on to disable it. For instance, on this one, the IM port 80, the IM1 server down there is the administrators. We've set that to be disabled for the time being so we could do some maintenance. So real quickly, let's go into this config file. I'm not going to go over the specifics of each line, but as you'll see, there's only a couple pages or a couple slides actually. It's a really short config file. It's located in etc/haproxy.cfg. There's a global parameter section. You can specify a max number of connections. It's default at 4096, but you can increase that if you want to or decrease it. Specify the PID file that gets generated. It does run as a daemon. There's a defaults config section. Primarily, you'll set it as mode HTTP. It's got 3 retries before it tries to indicate that the server's down and takes it out of service, so no clients get sent to that server. And the option redispatch will send existing connections over to one of the other servers that's still online. You can see in this one there was a lower max connection set. There's some timeout values. We have found that with using this with Sametime, the Sametime chat clients tend to be pretty chatty with trying to stay connected to the Sametime server, so we've had to increase the client and server timeout values to 300,000. Those are, I believe that's in milliseconds there. In this case, we've got it listening for a quicker server in this config file. It's listening on the local HAProxy IP address on port 80. One of the things that you'll notice when we set this up to run as a HTTP front end, we're doing a cookie insert. We titled the cookie quicker. Down at the bottom 2 lines there, you can see we've got server quicker 1 and 2. Both the backend servers are listening on port 80, and you can see that it's got the cookie and it's doing a quicker underscore server underscore 01. If you would go into Internet Explorer and or any of your browsers and actually look at the cookies in addition to the LTPA cookie that Domino would be providing, in our case with Domino, there's also going to be a quicker underscore server underscore 01 cookie that will indicate to HAProxy that you are connected to the quicker 1 server, and everything that you're doing during your session against that HAProxy will always get sent to that quicker 1 server. So that's really helpful, especially if you're thinking about doing some X pages things with the persistence with sessions, etc. You're going to want to stay on that same server the duration of your session so you don't get sent over to another server and have to necessarily worry about whether clustering's there or if your session's been dropped, etc. But if you do get failed over to the quicker 2 server, if the first server goes down for some reason, that would be pretty seamless to you as long as LTPA is set up correctly, etc. And then it would establish that quicker 2 quicker server 02 cookie for you there. This particular server on port 80, we also have HAProxy listening. So if I went to the 192.168.1.6.8/HAProxy-status, you see the stats URI there, then I would be able to authenticate there just to the HAProxy itself using the admin and then password of password123 in this example below that. And that's going to give you the ability to get to that stats window. Most of the time, we'll usually set this to listen on port 8080, and you can have a separate section just for stats. So we'll always go to our HAProxy web interface on port 8080. There's some different balance options you can do as well to balance based on which backend servers are more available, etc. If you want to get into just serving some TCP ports such as LDAP or Sametime, then you would specify the local IP and the local port that you want HAProxy to listen on. You'll set it to mode TCP instead of mode HTTP, and then you just specify those 2 or more servers in there. Tell it to check, and it'll check that at intervals and make sure the server's online. And as you can see, well, I don't have it in here, but in some of our other configs, for instance, with Sametime, we would front end listen on port 80 and send the back end to another port. Are there any limitations? HAProxy sounds like it's a really great product, and it is. The one thing that it does not do intentionally is support SSL certificates on the front end. So out of the box, you could not just install HAProxy and have it listen on port 443 and take your certificate or whatever and have it front end all that. You can do that. There's another Linux product, open source product called Pound, and it can be an SSL listener. You can install your certificates into the Pound application. So you would have it listen on port 443 and then pass the traffic. You could even pass it over to port 80 over to your HAProxy, and then all the back-end servers could stay on port 80 as well. So you wouldn't necessarily have SSL communication or have your back-end web servers or Domino servers handling all the SSL encryption and decryption. So you can get a little bit of performance boost that way as well by having Pound take off the SSL offloading. You can do some things where you would set up multiple HAProxy servers. So if one of those goes down, then using another product called Heartbeat, you could have it pick up that front-end IP address that all the users or other client applications connect to. So it's really, really nice to do that. And with that, I will be complete with the HAProxy section, and I'll pass the reins over to Ted Hardenburg.
All right, and let me just get set up here. All right. And now everybody should be seeing my screen, or not. There we go. All right, so we're going to talk about user communication, and this is more of a strategy discussion as opposed to how-tos. A lot of times what we find with our customers is, they know Notes is a great platform for communication and email and that sort of stuff. That's kind of a given, but there are other tools in the tool bag here that we can pull out and use. And part of it is just as administrators, we sometimes forget that we need to communicate with our users. Some organizations are really good at it that we see. Sometimes when we go into an organization and work with them, we find that they just kind of, midnight run an upgrade or something like that and don't share with the users what's coming. So that leads to a lot of user frustration and angst and not knowing, hey, what are the new cool features that we have? We've been running on Notes 6.5 forever, and now we've got Notes 8.5, and it looks totally different. So, sometimes we need to remember to communicate about new features, pending upgrades, sending out tips and tricks. I've talked about that before. System updates, maintenance alerts. It may not just be about the Domino infrastructure, but could be, about other pieces of your infrastructure, or just, hey, remember today's, tomorrow is a holiday, or tomorrow is, Jean's Day, or, free lunch day, or, Friday's, Bagel Friday, whatever it is. And finally, welcoming new users so they know what's going on. A lot of people come into an organization using Notes and they're expecting to see something else. They may not be familiar with it. So a way to welcome new users, tell them about Notes, tell them about the company, where to find information. Those kinds of things are very useful for communication. So, and all of these tools and we're going to talk about that can be used in conjunction with each other or used to extend your reach or augment your reach to the user community. So as we were talking about, there's more than just email and Notes. If you've got Sametime, you've got the ability to do announcements to users, so you can send out a one-way blast. There's RSS feeds that are available. There's the feed reader that's in the sidebar that you can configure. You can do newsletters from Notes databases, a tips database or something like that. And then finally, if you're using IBM connections, there's the ability of doing status updates. So everybody is increasingly familiar with social networking, and especially the Twitter. Send a quick message out in a short burst. Connections has that feature in it that you can take advantage of. So let's go by the old standby email. It's great for one-offs or very personal notices, such as a welcome email. It goes direct to the user. You can configure it. You can shape it to your need. You can use HTML. You can include graphics. You can make it all nice and pretty for the user. You can send it via an agent, so you can schedule it or do a mass mailing. Excuse me. And then it gets to everybody's inbox and their mobile device. So if they've got BlackBerry or iPhone or Android device, you can be sure to get it. So it is still very useful for when you need to get everybody and you need to know you got everybody. Email is still something that's very useful and good to use. Same-time announcements are a great way to send a one-way notice to anybody that's active on Sametime, whether it's a group or an individual or just everybody that's logged on to the Sametime community. From the administrator console, you can go in and send a message to everybody that's logged in, and that's great for maintenance notices, or you need to send a quick blast out to everybody. We use it frequently, mostly for the maintenance type stuff, saying, hey, we have something going on and need to let everybody know about it. The other thing is the announcements that you can send from the Sametime Connect client, they have to be allowed in the configuration. So you just need to go into the Sametime config and enable that via the via checkbox there. Again, great for useful system availability, breaking news. The announcements you can send from the Connect client, you can send to a group or select a subgroup of people, so you can individually select users and right-click on it, choose Send Announcement, and send it back. The nice thing about the announcement from the Sametime Connect client is that you can actually allow people to reply to you if you need to. So that's really good if you're looking for a piece of information and okay, I think the people in this group know about it. You can send a quick announcement blast out to them. It's quicker than email. You can allow them to reply to you and get information back. So that's a really useful tool. RSS feeds are a great way to push content. We've been using them for blogs and everything for quite a long time now. With Domino, there's the Domino blog template, or there's the other blog templates available from OpenNTF or other sites you can download, and they all have RSS feeds as a feature there. Very useful. It's part of the Notes install kit, and you can actually go into the install kit and set up some default feeds. So if you have an internal blog, an IT blog, or the CEO has a blog internally that he keeps up, and you want to have all those feeds available to people out of the box, you can go in and set that up there and have that default there. Newsletters, excellent way to send up information updates. Use this in a tips database all the time. You can go in there and you can do just a simple action to send an email. Really simple. You can throw some text in there, grab everything that's in the in a particular view. You could do an all documents view or create a view that says, here's the documents added in the last 7 days. So you can base the view on the date created. And then the nice thing is you can send an email, but only when there's something new in that view. So if there hasn't been anything published in the last 7 days, you could, the agent will execute, but it won't send anything because there's nothing to send. So it's very nice. It sends a summary for all the documents with the links there, so users can see, okay, here's what's new. Click on the link and find out some new information. So it's great for tips and tricks blogs or databases. Great for just company newsletters, department information, updates to regulatory documentation or whatever. So very useful way to communicate blasts out to everybody. Status updates in IBM Connections. So this is a feature that's in IBM Connections that is very similar to Twitter. You can update people as far as, hey, we're going to be working on server XYZ over the weekend. You can post something, include a link to a blog or a forum or wiki post in Connections. And it's not tied strictly to IBM Connection. You just throw in any URL in there and share it with your users, and they'll just see it in their status update feed on their homepage in Connections, or via a sidebar widget. And there's a couple ones that I have and use. One is just status updates, and that's from IBM Greenhouse, and it configures to one Connections environment. So that's kind of the downside of using this one. But you can post updates from there, and it monitors the status updates that are going on in your community, and you can narrow it down to all updates or just people in your network. And then there's also Wildfire, which is a plugin available from OpenMTF from people down in Australia. And the nice thing about this is it works with multiple Connections environments, and it also works with other social networks. So you can connect it to Twitter and Facebook and also, a myriad number of social networks. So you can have that as kind of a one-stop shop for everything to take a look at. And that's all I've got on communication, and talk about managed replicas. Chris, you want to kick that off?
Certainly.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Can you make me presenter?
Yep.
Thank you, sir. All right, implementing managed replicas. This is something that was new in the 8.5 code stream. One of the many great things IBM's added. Makes life a lot easier for admins to push things out to users. So what are managed replicas? They're basically just local mail file replicas that get some replication settings pushed down to them, so they only receive a subset of data based off what you do in the policy. And that way they are managed because you can specify how much to send down via the Domino policies. Any pre-existing local replicas, you can automatically convert them into a managed replica, and then all the client-server connections would stay existing. You wouldn't have any changes there. They would also be automatically created with the enabling of a managed replica for the specific user. What are the benefits of rolling out managed replicas? End-user experience is a lot faster and responsive with local replica versus server-based replica. You don't introduce any of the latency on the network for the chatter of keeping the connection to the inbox updated, etc. So they're always interacting with their local mail files. And it also, this is transparent to the users, even if they do have a local replica already. So when can you roll out managed replicas? Once your Domino directory design, Notes clients, and Domino servers are at 8.5.2, you are ready to go with this. We do recommend as a best practice to go ahead and upgrade to 8.5.3. There have been several bug fixes in later versions of 8.5.2, the fix packs, and at least one client fix, primarily in 8.5.3, that could address potential replication problems when you're converting from a local replica. So if you do need to convert some users from local replicas, you can definitely want to go to 8.5.3 to start off with, so you don't run into any of those potential problems. Where are the settings configured? If you go into your policies and settings view on your server, go to the desktop settings policy that you have applied for your user base that you want to push these out to. You go to the Mail tab and then the Mail Settings section under there. You've got a local mail file option. You can choose whether their mail file is going to be on server or local. Actually, I believe with managed replicas, you would set it to create a managed replica, and you would, I believe you set it to stay on server. There's some other options there as well. That's where you specify how to do that. How should you configure the settings? So with the local mail file, you would create a managed replica, or you could choose to create a managed replica or convert a local replica to managed. This would be for any users that, I guess, legacy-wise would have a standard local replica already. The mail file location, as I said, you would leave this to be on server. That's not a typo. It's a little confusing, but that way the client knows how to handle this as a managed replica. There's the use local mailbox to send messages option, and you would want to set that to 1. And then there are some client settings. You can see a screen grab to the right, how you would want to retrieve the documents. You can retrieve it with or without the attachment, whether you want the server to poll for new mail and notify the client, which is a really slick way to go there. A lot of times in the past, also with users having local replicas, you may have had complaints about their notification window popping up saying they've got new mail, but they go to their inbox and there's nothing new in there. This setting here would actually cause the server to push out to the client a poll request so that it will update and refresh the local replica. And that's been around since before managed replicas anyway. It just seems to not be too highly implemented. You can also choose some newer options for silent failover when servers go down. And you see there's another option new with 853 to upgrade all local NSFs to the latest ODS version. And that does have a side benefit of having some performance increases by having local replicas that are all the latest ODS. And you can see the link to the tech note there, tech note 1437957, and it'll have some more information on each of these options. So how does a user switch to using the managed replicas? Basically, they don't. By means of it actually being managed, you as the admin are pushing that out to them, and they don't have to do anything on their end. It'll automatically set them to use that local replica, the managed replica, once it is completely replicated and is set to be in service. They don't get any prompts, and they're transitioned right away. They can access the server-based replica by opening it directly, explicitly, using either the File Open Notes application option or from their workspace and selecting the server-based replica. So who can benefit from the new options? It does implement the ability to apply policy settings based off of characteristics of the machine now with 853. These are some new options, as I said, that are available only with 853. So for certain user types, if you have the need to just create replicas on laptops, then under the mail settings, remember a couple screens ago, we did not show the 853 screen because now you see the enter machine specific formula. You can put that over into a formula window, and you can see on the right there's a new add if at get machine info option, whether it's a laptop or not. And then there are some other more specific sections there you can do. There are some more details on this available in the tech note linked here that you'll be able to access these slides later after the presentation. The machine-specific formula is a really nice option that they've added with 853, and there are a lot of other things you can do with it. In the past, you've had issues maybe determining if somebody is, say, a Citrix user. There are ways using the app formulas now where you can determine, based off of environment variables, etc., whether they're in some type of Citrix client or other option that way. So a lot of new doors are open, so you could actually tell it to not push out a local replica if they're in some type of Citrix environment or if they're on a non-laptop machine as well. And now we're going to open up to Q&A. We're finished with the primary presentation. Dawn, I'll let you take it from here.
Great. Thanks, guys. I wanted to open everything up to Q&A and let everyone get a chance to ask our experts any questions that they might have on any of the topics that we covered today, or any general Domino, quicker, Sametime administration questions that you might have on your mind and want to ask while we have Chris and Ted available. So I'm going to give everyone a chance to do that. We do have a question that came through. Is a managed replica activated once, i.e. is it turned on? If it's turned off, how do you reactivate it?
Well, since it's based on policies, if the policy changes, then the managed replica would change. So if you move somebody to a policy that isn't using managed replicas, that would kill the replica, the local replica, and then once you add them back into the policy, it would set it back up again. So, and the nice thing about the managed replicas is that, if there is a problem with the local replica, gets corrupted or whatever, the client fails the person over to an available server replica to work on while the local replica is rebuilt, and then it pushes them back. So it's a really nice feature, very easy to implement. Users don't know anything about it. It's very nice.
Okay. Comment here on the Sametime announcements. I find that they can be easily missed by users because they're only on the screen for a brief period. Do you find this, and are there any recommendations around that?
That is one of the things that can be troublesome, and I'm trying to think if there's a way to extend that.
Yeah, I was going to go look and see if any of the managed settings could be used to push down the default time that you would have those stay on the screen.
We'll take that back and
And that concludes this edition of Group Talk. Thanks for watching. To engage in conversations with us, visit twitter.com/gbsknows. To stay up to date, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/joingbs. And to watch entertaining and informative videos, visit youtube.com/gbsknows. And don't forget, visit our website and send us an email at gbs.com and info@gbs.com. Thanks again.